like a teacher today because I'm going to use a couple of techniques to discuss today's stuff. Here we are. If you got your Bibles, and please turn with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 4 because that's what we're covering. And I've got the whiteboard here. I want to move that out of the way before I'm not knowing me or go tumble and I'll follow it. Anyone who recently knows my spa incident would probably agree. I went to get in the spa, had some comfort from it, and I slipped in it instead and fell on my side. For 1 second there I hated the spa. 2 seconds later I forgave it. It was an unusual circumstance. So today we're going to continue in our series with Corinthians, and we're getting into an important part of how the Paul deals with it. And we've got an unusual heading today, if we can add that up. Here we are. What do you reckon? When pastors get it wrong. Now, of course, knowing how Paul works in the Bible, how Paul the Apostle works, we may well find that what we think and what he thinks may be a dichotomy. I've got an interesting challenge for you, and I'm going to get him up to help me with this one. He's going to be the teacher today, and he's going to write on the whiteboard your answers. So here we are. Hello, school. Teachers in the class. Just for those who know, he is a teacher, that's right. Okay. And we were listing, I got a few people to write on the whiteboard to work, not who's the best, but who's the best of the worst. It would appear we've lost the skill, Adrian. Not you, just me too. Are you? Yeah. See, my writing's perfect. Okay. So I've got a little chunk. I haven't got long on this, but I need to get some stimulation or some thoughts from you guys. What is the role and purpose of a pastor? Anyone, hands up or yell out. I don't care. Go for it. Anyone got an idea? Role and purpose of a pastor.
Shepherd.
Sorry?
A shepherd.
A shepherd. That's good. What does that mean?
He looks after his flock.
He looks after his flock. I like that. Good. Good. Yeah. To feed and tend the flock. I love these images. I used to be a farm labourer, but right now I'm remembering I used to do dagging. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I'm remembering dagging. Never mind. For those who don't know what that is, good, stay there. Okay. Anyone else got a concept of, yep.
Servant.
Oh, yep, servant. That's cool. A servant. What else is a pastor? Yep.
Be a free counsellor.
To be a free counsellor. What else is it going up? Okay. I've increased my rate by 1,000%, but I still feel poor. That's all good. Thank you. Yep. A leader. A leader. Yes, a leader. I like those terms. A couple more. Let's throw a couple more in the mix. Any other concepts of what a pastor is meant to be? A teacher, a role model, and a sounding board. Yes, not the whacking board, but the sounding board. Well, that's a deep one. A theologian. A pastor should be a theologian. How are we going? See, I'm glad he's doing it. I'd still be on the first line going, shepherd. The other one, what's another one? Kira, and to bring correction. I'm gone. To bring correction, yes. Kira, to bring correction, yep. And a couple more if we've got some.
What about a counsellor?
A worship leader or an example of worship. We've seen my leading in worship, it's really. But you're right, a worship leader? Yep. Any other thoughts?
What about counsellor?
We've done counsellor. An equipper. Oh, I like equipper, yep. The proclamation of sound doctrine. Well, okay, let's sound doctrine. Let's stop there because I'm all of a sudden feeling really scared of my job description. That's really powerful. That's actually a lot there. Do you know what? I've just outside the sermon notes, I've just realised something. If we actually did draw up that job description and say to a pastor, this is going to be your total job description plus a few more, I wonder how many would put up their hands to be a pastor. But you know what? Here goes the thing. Cool, you're right. To be a pastor, is not one thing, it's a multitude of tasks, isn't it? Why is this important? Well, it's to do with where we're heading with Paul and how he dealt with the Corinth. He had to define that question to them. He had to state what a minister of the gospel is to a people who were in chaos and in division and in rebellion. So, I've got another little bit of a question that, I'm not going to write this down because it's even a little bit more philosophical, if you like. Do pastors work in their ministry by the authority of God or by the permission of the congregation? Ooh, there goes a good one. I'm going to teach you a concept soon, and I'm hopefully going to, so I'm going to have fun with you guys, and then we'll get into it. So, do pastors work in their ministry by the authority of God or the permission of the congregation? Anyone willing to make a comment on that one? Any thoughts? Depends on the church. Oh, that's insightful. Yeah. Any other comments?
Authority of God.
Authority of God? Yep. Yep. But if the people don't approve, nothing will happen. But you're right. Yes. Yep.
By the authority of God with the
And I'm going to stop there because there's a blending of all your ideas, which are, in fact, Paul's conclusion. We're going to continue with this. I want to teach you. You notice in my slide here, I've got that funny-looking T. See that T, and I've got that line through it. What can you tell me about the T on the left part of it and the T on the right part of it? They are they're symmetrical, and they are the same thing. So if you reflect one on the other and the other backwards, they always make the T, don't they? Do you understand that? I will explain why, because we're going to run into a concept in our sermon today, and it's called a tautology. A tautology. It's based on the concept of the Greek letter T, tautology. Tautology. Do you know the cross that Jesus died on? It was a Roman cross, and they were called tau crosses. They were T's. Now, for those who, of course, you remember the little top bit there? The actual cross is that. The bit above was where they hung the accusation. And so, in fact, Romans were so interested in crucifixion on the field. If they needed to crucify their soldier for being bad, they would just find a tree that looked like that and crucify them on them. They didn't really care. But when they wanted to make a public spectacle, they would make a tau cross, which is that. And we've adopted this into the English language to mean something that means the same, even if it looks different. I'll give you an idea. Who can tell me the tautology of this? They are giving free gifts today. Well, look, they're giving. Does it imply it's already free? And it's already a gift? So I could remove giving and say they are handing out free gifts today. Or there are free gifts today. If I said they're free gifts down the road, you would automatically know they're giving them, right? Keep that in mind. What about this? It's a new innovation. Well, what, tell me, is an innovation? It's new. So I could say it's new, or I could say it's an innovation. And didn't I just say the same thing? What about this? It will either rain today or it won't. Well, really? The word either implies that. And so we have tautologies. We have tautologies in biblical thinking too. What about this? I serve the church best by serving God first. That's a tautology. If I say I serve God, if I say I serve the church, but I don't serve God first, I'm not serving the church. And if I serve God first, guess what I'm serving? They're together. They cohabitate with the same meaning. It's just we don't get it sometimes. What about this? I love you the most when I love God more than you. That's a tautology. The more I love God, the more I will. And the more I love you, I will find a deeper love for God because it's expressed together. What about another one? Here goes a very fascinating tautology. Authority and service are one in the church. Authority and service are one in the church. And this is the tautology that's Paul had to deal with amongst the Corinth Christians. Paul had to deal with complicated issues in Corinth, as we know from our previous sections. I wonder what we can learn from his experience as we go forward into 1 Corinthians chapter 4. Let's read that together. I'll stand up and read this one. This then is how you ought to regard us. Now the word us is Apollos, Cephas, Paul, and every minister. And we'll touch on this soon. As servants of Christ and as those entrusted with the mysteries God has revealed. Now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. I care very little if I am judged by you or by any human court. Indeed, I do not even judge myself. My conscience is clear, but that does not make me innocent. It is the Lord who judges me. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. At that time, each will receive their praise from God. There's a little bit of cynicism in that last statement. You know, it says everyone will receive their praise from God. And if you understand sort of the structure of Greek, that actually implies you may not get any praise as well. In other words, you will get your praise from God, and if your praise from God is nothing, that's what you will. See the logic there? It's a very interesting way of structuring things. So that's our scripture for today. What was the condition? We've heard it so many times, but let's go to the condition of the Corinth church, just to remind ourselves. Immorality had been justified, and sexual dysfunction was amongst them, quite badly. Strange doctrines. There was one called Gnosticism, and we'll cover that, no doubt, as we go down the track. I've read Gnostic texts, by the way. Fascinatingly confusing. I went through a whole structure of one of the main Gnostic texts years ago because I was curious to see, and they found through the Dead Sea Scrolls and a few other things and other places, they found some Gnostic texts, and I started reading. For those who know the Gospel of Thomas and those sorts of things are from the Gnostic theologies, and one of them's got this great image of Jesus rising from the dead. He comes out of the tomb being held tight by two angels because the head that he had went from earth right into heaven. It was that large and long, and he had to be supported, and there was all these mysticisms and oh my goodness me. But you know what? We've got into the church. Division and discord, elitism and the gifts. Elitism and the gifts, strange. That which is given, we get elite on. People pleasing instead of God serving. The rich have dominated the poor in the fellowship. These were all the conditions of the Corinth church. The church reflected more in common with the world around it than what God had called it to be. Instead of representing Jesus, it represented all their agendas, their brokenness, and, let's be blunt, their evil. It was turning the church into a joke and shaming the one who died for them. Internally, there were groups playing for power and control over the direction of the church that they were constantly causing fragmenting and conflict. Even the ones sent to help them, they used to make the division. Follow Paul, follow Peter, Apollos, everyone playing games to dominate each other. This, of course, is human nature. Something bad happens to us, so we run to those who will say what we want them to say to back up our position. It doesn't matter if we are right or wrong anymore. When we get to this state, it merely matters that we demand of people to validate our current state, even if it might destroy us. I have an agreement with several of my highly trusted friends. They're allowed to, by permission, at any time to tell me I'm an idiot. I value their friendship so much that I even let them have authority over my life to a degree, to say when I'm doing wrong, thinking wrong, behaving wrong. And in one of them, I actually have an agreement with him that I've got to tell him even my secrets. Scary, eh? And he is given permission to rip me apart if I'm behaving bad. Why? I've got human nature in me, and I'm accountable to God and to you. I better have someone who tells me when I'm an idiot. And he's good, he's gracious. But he has told me a couple of times, Malcolm, get your head out of the sand and wake up. And I respect them for that. Why? Because I don't want to be a person who runs together around me people that will approve my bad behaviour. I think that's dumb. I follow Paul, I follow Apollos, or I follow Peter meant they would use what each person had said to divide and conquer their opposing group. Paul said that, Peter said that, and they went, really? What they forgot to realise that none of those guys were disagreeing with each other. They were in unity. Paul, Peter, Apollos agreed. But somehow or other, they had the audacity to take what was said and divide over it. So what happened? Well, Paul's rejection of their judgment because of their wrong attitudes kicked in. To top off all of this, they decided that they could judge Paul's attitude and Paul's ministry. In verse 3, we get a view of how he viewed it or felt about it. Notice in the NIV, I care very little if I am judged by you or any human court. The ISV, it is a very little thing to me that I should be examined by you or by any human court. And let me paraphrase what it would look like if I could make it into a modernism. You have got to be joking. You're judging me in your current state? I can't take that seriously. Apostle Paul was not advocating that pastors cannot be held to account. Far from it. Look at verse 2. Now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. But their judgment was clouded by their bad beliefs, agendas for power, and evil intentions. This meant they were as good as a civil court judging spiritual issues out of their depth. In verse 4, he points out that he recognizes he knows of no reason why he should be judged by them. His conscience is clear. But even in this, it doesn't mean he is right. He knows that. Instead, he holds himself up to a higher scrutiny, the judgment of God. And God's judgment is far more in depth than theirs. They look at the appearance, the superficial, and the observable. A deceiver could fool anyone at this level, and it appears they had their fair share of them. God sees right into their inner authority, their real agendas and motivations. And what does he say in verse 5? Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in the darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. At that time, each will receive their praise from God. And you know, that kind of terrifies me because I remember what Jesus said, you know, well done, good and faithful. And what's the other expression? Depart from me, I never. Put it this way, Paul was saying this, I will take your criticism of me seriously when you judge from the Word of God, with the will of God as your focus, and the desire to be what God has called us to be as your central direction. After all, whose judgment was more concerning to Paul? Man or God? What I find fascinating is that this dysfunctional fellowship seemed to have permission to judge the appointed ministers, but felt they were free from correction from Paul himself. The bias does my head in. I can judge you, Sir Paul, but Sir Paul shall shut up, for we don't stand judged by him at all. Don't go well. What's Paul's view of a minister? Because inside of this, and I'm going to talk a little bit previous as well, Paul defines his role to the Corinth church, and not just the Corinth church, but to all the churches. Into this Paul speaks, and we find very quickly he defines his and Apollos' role. In fact, all pastors and ministers' roles. You know, I was really happy with this text. I really was. I was going, yay, this is about apostles, no issues here. Because, apostles, Paul, the 12, we've got it all sussed. But you see, there's a problem. It wasn't about the apostles. Because in verse 6, in the next section, he includes Apollos, and in the previous section he talks about Apollos, he defines these definitions for every minister that will ever exist inside the Christian church. Which means me and anyone else who is called to be a pastor or a minister. So how does Paul see all ministers' roles? Well, it's in the terms he uses when he is talking to them in the previous and the section. Let's reflect on 1 Corinthians 3, 5-6, for example, in the previous section. Who was Apollos anyhow? Or who was Paul? They are merely through whom you came to believe, as the Lord gave to each of us his task. I planted, Apollos watered, but God kept everything growing. And Ralph and I have been reflecting over that a bit recently, Ralph? That's come up several times. The word servant is the word diakonos. It's where we get the word deacon from. And it means one who executes the commands of another person. Paul recognizes that he is a servant sent to the Corinthians to serve, but not to serve their selfish agendas. No. His is the job to run after the will of the one who sent him, not those who were the focus of the service. You see that? His is the job of fulfilling the requirements of the Lord, not those whom he was focusing his service on. He saw himself in the grand scheme as merely a servant and not the master in the church. What about 1 Corinthians 4:1 in our section? Think of us again as servants of the Messiah and as servant managers entrusted with God's secrets from the ISB. The first word where you see servants is the word pateros. Now I've got to tell you, I love this imagery. Let me tell you what it is. You wouldn't believe the word. Fascinating. Who remembers seeing something like gladiators and that sort of stuff where you've got the Roman boats? And in the Roman boats, underneath the deck, you have a whole lot of... Right, yes, but their job are to be the oarsmen, right? Well, here goes the thing. They would put their strongest oarsmen in the front, where they would see instructions best, and they would be the stronger ones. They were usually the younger ones. The older ones were then diminished down the line until they dropped dead out the other side. But what they would do is they'd have the strongest and the most dedicated and the hardest working oarsmen in the front. And their job was to set the pace, their job was to pull the hardest, and if people dropped, they usually dropped in the back and they were easily replaced. Making sense? Paul says, I am a lowly oarsman sitting in the back. And what he meant by that is Christ is the senior oarsman and I follow him. The word he used is not a chief oarsman. It is the imagery of a lowly oarsman, one who sits in the back, following the master who pulls from the fore. The best rowers led from the front, taking on the strain and leading the boat forward. In this, he is pointing out that he follows the Lord, the one who sets our course and takes the strain. It is the Lord who sets our pace. A minister is one who, like the Lord, is willing in their court to pray this scary prayer, not my will, but yours be done. They pull at their allotted oar of leadership, following the head oarsman ahead of them. In other words, the Lord's direction is praying. Well, economist is the other term he uses in this phrase. Imagine an estate. In my wildest dreams, imagine me with the most amazing estate you can imagine, and connected to it are several businesses. And I decide that I can't run my business like that. So I go to my servants or slaves and I say, Bud, you've got the skills, you've got the abilities, you've got the knack to do this job. I am now going to call you the overseer. And as an overseer, I'm going to give you authority to do the job of managing my estate. By the way, you do it my way, not your way. And here goes the instruction book. Do it that way. The overseer remains a servant of it or a slave. Never ever in a position are they above all other servants or slaves. But they hold an office above the estate. They remain a servant or a slave right through. But their position is as speaking on behalf of the master. And he calls himself this to the Corinth church. So the management of the estate was there, the manager was there for day-to-day function, to care for all the things that were attached to the estate. They were stewards of resources and the upkeeping of the estate, making sure it was run to the owner's standards, not their own. Kind of like Joseph. Remember Joseph of the Bible? A slave who became an overseer for the whole nation. When he spoke, did he say, this is what I want, or did he say, this is what Pharaoh wants? So how did Paul see his role as a minister of the church? They always serve God first. He takes the front seat, they follow from behind. Their role as servant towards the fellowship is one of oversight and stewardship. They are not there to please the other servants, never there to please the other servants. Theirs is the office of obedience to the master's instructions, and that is final. The minister is the lead servant in the fellowship, but never the head master. Rather, the head servant, one who leads in the authority of an overseer, wanting the best for others by fulfilling the agenda of the master. There's our tautology, you see. I serve you best by serving the Lord only. And when I serve the Lord only, I will give up my life for you. The tautology is profound. You get the concept now? The more I love myself, the less I'm likely to give up my time for you. The more I love my God and honour all He's done for me, the more my time is a gift to Him. Making sense? That's how Paul saw himself. That immediately tells us why Paul rejected their judgment. They were self-serving, divisive in behaviour, and people-pleasing in politics. This boat will end up on the rock, and as Paul told Timothy, they will make a shipwreck of their faith. I want to rush through this section because I want to get to the Lord's Supper, our Lord's meal together. But I want to tell you there are three things in the modern world that I believe reflects the current problem within the church. The first problem is gathering to themselves tickle the air effect. You know, Paul says in the future there's going to be a church that will be like Corinth and experience yet again. For the time will come, as you see here, people will not tolerate healthy doctrine, which they didn't, but with itching ears will surround themselves with teachers who cater to their people's own desires, which is exactly what they were doing. They will refuse to listen to the truth and will turn to myths. You know, the word myths includes stories, deception, Gnosticism, hyper stuff that's not founded on truth. It encompasses a lot of meaning. But you must be clear-headed about everything. Endure suffering. Notice a pastor is told to endure suffering. Do the work of an evangelist. Devote yourself completely to the ministry. Right there, we see a very important role for pastors in the church to accept getting a hard time and to accept that their primary job is good doctrine and good direction. And they will work amongst people who would rather have their ears tickled than being pushed forward to become godly. Let's be blunt. As a pastor, sometimes I'm amongst that crowd. And sometimes I get uncomfortable and it feels hard too. What about the other effect we need in the church today? The watchman effect. When I was young, God called me in a very particular way not to be a pastor. I don't need the title, I really don't care. I was called to honour God by representing the Word no matter where I am and what I'm doing. For me personally, I felt my own sense of calling at a very young age. I couldn't get away from Ezekiel. Wherever I went, the story of Ezekiel went with me. It was annoying how people would bring it up and I had no connection to them. It was just an unusual time. He was called a watchman for Israel. You know, the watchman stands on the wall looking for the enemies that might come against God's people. He stood on the wall of truth, godliness, and the standards of God. He stood as an alarm system saying, "Whoa, guys, crap's coming. Watch out." If the people of God turned from the Lord, He would call them to repent and return. Lest judgment came on them from God. Our age is so consumed about the love of God, and believe me, God is love. But we forget the judgment of God, and that's at our peril. God described those whom He would be dealing with amongst the people of Ezekiel's time. Son of man, go now to the people of Israel, your people, and speak words to them, my words. But notice, their language wasn't obscure. But the people of Israel will not listen to you. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint, or as one translation has it, like diamond. Do not be afraid of them, or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious people. I love this because I see Paul's dealing with the Corinth church like the prophet dealing with Israel. What was Ezekiel told by God? Though they are his people and should understand him, they have an attitude problem and it gets in the way of the will of God. They claim to be God's people but serve their own interests first. They were difficult to work with because they dig their toes deep into their pride and won't let go. And what was God's advice to Ezekiel? Bud, I'm going to harden you up. I'm going to make it so you can stand in the midst of the rubbish. Don't fear my people. You will need to have courage. Expect times of difficulty from my children, he told Ezekiel, and Paul saw it in his own time. And what about this? I am your God. Serve me by holding up my truth to my people. While studying the Corinthians issue, I can imagine Ezekiel sitting with Paul, the apostle, and saying to him, when will God's people grow up? And there Paul shrugging his shoulders going, The tension of serving others, but working for the master, is the great tautology of ministry. This is an age where authority is looked down on. According to several sources, one main reason that pastors and ministers drop out is they're tired of the politics and the divisions within the church, everyone having their own agenda. This is our tautology of the start: authority and service within the church. As a pastor, do I have authority? But is that authority to dominate or to serve? How do I serve as a pastor? I do so with authority. Everywhere you go, people are pushing against authority and leadership. Popularity is more important than what is right and wrong. The simplistic dominates the big picture, the immediate, the eternal. As a pastor, I conclude this is an impossible age. Just like Apostle Paul's time in his ministry, people want leadership that satisfies their agendas. As a minister of the Lord, I am called to make a choice, like Paul, who will I follow? What will I judge my role as a pastor to? Will I be a people pleaser or a servant of God amongst other servants? As a fellowship, do we call our leaders to make us happy and feel good about ourselves, or challenge and encourage us to mature in our faith? Which one? It can't be both. A pastor is not superior to anyone else. No way. But theirs is the call to serve God's highest ideals amongst God's holy people. What is the Christianity we want in our fellowship or in the New Zealand church? One of compromise where human will and secret agendas rule us? Or the will of God made manifest amongst us? This above heaven remains the question this section forces me to ask of us today. When is it the pastor gets it wrong in our current age? Let me answer that now. When they fail to remain servants of God in the office they hold, and they become more interested in popularity than the godliness of God's people. At which place I need to cease being a pastor and learn to be something else. The measurement, therefore, of a minister of God, as seen through the eyes of Paul in his letter to Corinth, is this. Ministers, pastors are called to follow the Lord only. He is the lead oarsman. To seek the master's will for the estate of God. To put aside our own secret agendas. You know, one of the things if you've been a pastor and leadership in the church, you probably, if you've never been there, you don't know this, but we're required amongst all people, above all people, to check every agenda all the time. Because God judges us the harshest. Be willing to be unpopular. It comes with the territory. You want to be a pastor unpopular? Go be a pop artist. If you want to be a minister of God and a pastor of God, accept people will despise you, even God's people. But I'm not here to please the people, I'm here to please the Lord, even if it breaks me. People pleasers or God focused, which one? Paul's pressure of his day remains the same pressure today. Though we serve our fellowships, we do so by serving its Lord first. The manager of this fellowship must be but Lord, not personal agendas. His word, the Bible, is the living document of the estate. There is the rules. There is the instruction. There is the purpose and the proposition of the estate here. And His Spirit is the empowerment to fulfill the Lord's purpose through and amongst us. Let's be a fellowship that meets together around the Lord, seeking His will for us and setting His standards in all we do. Our unity must be the common Lord, a common doctrine, a common purpose, and a willingness to grow up in our faith. And that, my dear friends, is the job, according to Paul, of a minister of God. One of the things that startles me from this message for me, not but for me, is that as a pastor, I'm required to die to self more aggressively than most. Every sermon, every counselling, everything I do as a pastor must start from the proposition, what is the will of, not Malcolm. I welcome scrutiny. Please judge me, approve me, as the Bible says. You have freedom to do so. If I'm wrong, correct me. If I'm evil, chastise me. If I lie, force me to be honest. And I'm not saying easy lies, lying about who I am as a person. That's one. If I do all those things, feel free. I am more scared of God than I am of you. And if you're right, I will repent. Here goes the catch. Do so knowing the Word of God thoroughly, lest you judge yourself. Do so wanting the best intention for me and the church. Constantly wanting the big picture, not the small picture. And do so not because you've got me in the place you want me. Do so because you've got me where the Lord wants me. Scrutiny, testing of me, approving of me, you're welcome to do so. Please, do so from the right place that leads to you and not being judged. Be wise. Follow the oarsman yourself. We're all servants under the one master. Remember this. I asked you about that question about authority and permission. You do give permission for a pastor's authority. You do it like this. Lord, not our will, but yours be done.